Hey everybody, so we're working on our filters and watercolors assignment for today. And so width is going to be, let's go width 11, height 14 inches, and then resolution 300. All right, so here's an example, but now we're moving to the next one. And so we're going to try this one, file, place, and then we're going to use, let's see, in downloads. Perfect, we're going to use this one. Okay, now this picture is horizontal, so what we're going to do is we're going to go edit, let's see here, image, rotate canvas, we'll go clockwise. And so for this picture, it's going to work a lot better to go sideways with it. And so I'm going to hold the shift key, and there we go. I'm going to make him bigger. All right, so that's pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to copy this, and so I'm going to rasterize it, and then I'm going to make a duplicate layer so I can come back to it later if I need to. So rasterize, and then duplicate layer, click OK, and then I'm just going to pull this one down here and hide that one, and I'm going to work on this one. Now, what we want to do is we're going to copy this, and we're going to do a couple things to the background. So for starters, I am going to use the quick selection tool, grab as much of him as I can, and so I'm just using the quick selection tool to grab as much of this as possible. And so I'm going to grab him and the soccer ball. And make sure you get all the little details in there. And this is the tricky part about the soccer ball. There's more that you need that is hard to get everything. Alright, pretty good. And then go in here, add a little bit to it, add a little bit there. So the hardest process is just getting everything selected. So this is probably the most tedious part of this process. Okay. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now if I need to add anything else, I think I'm pretty good right now. Alright, so what I usually do is just go along the edges to make sure I've got everything I need. Alright, now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a small little piece. So I'm going to hold the shift key right here. And so what I'm going to do here is I draw this really small shape. And you can go as angled as you can want to, but the more angled that it is, the better it's going to look. And it's going to be really thin as we go through this. When students do this assignment, this shape right here, which is really thin, I get students that make it really big and tall. And so we want to get as thin as we can with this, because trust me, it looks a lot better when it's this thin right there. Okay, so I've got that, and then I go select, inverse, and then I'm going to press delete. Okay, so I've still got this layer if I need it later. Okay, so that's kind of my starting point right here. So we'll click on this, and so I've got this image. Now, there's a couple little selections that I could probably clean up, right? So I could probably go back in here, clean some of these little areas up. Now, if I want to, I can go back. So I'm going Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. So now I've got this part just selected. So I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm going to add to that selection right there. And then I'm going to add to the selection right here. I'm going to add to this selection right there, and then same with right in his hands, a little spot right there. Okay, so now we'll go select, inverse, press delete, and so I've got that for right now. And so what I'm trying to do with this is I make this part really thin right there. You don't want it too thick because it looks really weird when I've got a big blob right there. All right, so what? Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to make this background color, and it's up to you what you make it, but I'm going to go paint bucket this so it's a little bit darker. Okay, then I'm going to start adding a couple of filters to this. So I'm going to go filter gallery, and I think what I want to do with this one is a rough pastel. So you can try a bunch of these, but as I go through this, nothing really adds texture to it like this one. And then I can add some details in here if I want to. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this. You can do sandstone, canvas, which doesn't look bad, burlap, which doesn't look bad, or brick, which doesn't really look good. So I'm going to go to sandstone, and then I'm going to click OK. And so now what I'm going to end up with is a little bit of a texture back there. I'm going to go back in there again. I'm going to go filter gallery, and I want to do this the second time. So now I'm back into here, and then it's up to you how you choose this. And then I click OK. And so now I'm getting more of a texture like this. Hey, then with this picture here, I want to add another filter to it. So I'm going to go into filter gallery, and I want to have some edits on here. So I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing. Now, this one looks pretty good. So we don't want it to look completely real still, but we also don't want to make it look totally fake. And so it's up to you what you end up choosing for this. Poster edge, this one works pretty well. Sponge, I don't think it does. No. So we're going to go poster edge, I think, with this one. And then if you want to add some of the intensity to it, jazz it up a little bit, that's fine. Okay. Click OK. So now I've got something like this. Alright, then the next thing I want to do, maybe, let's see here, I'm going to make another layer behind this, and I want to make it white, because I want to lighten this background just a little bit. So I'm going to use the paint bucket. In fact, I'm going to go with that same blue. We're going to see what happens here. I'm going to change this so it's not so overpowering. So we still see it, but you see the difference? So this looks a lot better. And the reason I have that background is so I don't see the checkerboard, because that looks pretty weird. Okay, so I've got that for now. Now, if I want to go even lighter with this, maybe I go something like here, and then paint bucket, and so it's a little bit lighter. Alright, so I've got this image. Now, the next piece, so I've got this filter added. If I want to add another filter to it, that's an option. And then, again, I'll just have to zoom out so I can see the whole thing. And then there's more that you can do with it. Maybe you want to lighten some of these little spots up a little bit. So again, some of these look good, some of these look really bad. So we've got that. We've got cutout doesn't look good. And again, you can usually test these out and see what works for you and what doesn't. So the paint jobs look pretty good. Okay, so this is kind of what we're going with. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add another layer right in the background here, and I'm going to add a watercolor. And so we've done this before, and so you should be getting a lot better with these watercolor brushes. And so I'm going to go with, let's go with more of a red. Okay, now opacity wise, I'm going to go about 50%, something like that. And I can change this a little bit. I'm going to press R and I'm going to rotate it just a hair. Alright. So we go with that. And then I go back to normal, so I'm pressing the R key. And then I'm going to grab another layer. I can either do the same layer or another layer. And then I'm going to go with a different color. So we're going to go with like more of a blue. Okay. And then if I want to, I can do the same thing again. So maybe it's like right here. and right there. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these two and let's see, I'm going to merge these two layers, and then I want to go change the opacity on it just a little bit, and so then you get a design kind of like that. Now I'm not a big fan of what I've got right here, so I'm actually going to delete this and then make a new layer. In fact, here, let's do this. I'm just going to hide it so then you can see it later, and then I'm going to add a new brush on here, press the R key, and then let's go, that's pretty good, go right there, and then again I can just change the opacity of it, press the R key, bring it back up, and then I can make a new layer. I'm going to change my brush too, so I'm going to go with, let's see here, Watercolors. Not really a fan of that. So, I mean, you kind of got to pick and choose what you like the most. So I'm going to do a new layer here. I'm going to go a little bit less, and then going to go with more of a green, maybe a blue, something like that. There we go. Alright, that's pretty good. And then add another brush in here. There we go. And then right in this spot, right there. So I've just got a couple of little additions on here. And so I'm going to make this brush size a little bit larger. And so all I'm trying to do is just kind of give it a little look of maybe a different brush size. And so then we end up with something like this. And so there's my little artistic edit, and this is our design. And if you want to try anything else out to kind of make it look more interesting, you can. If you want to add some little brushes in here, send us some accentuation marks, so that's cool. So that's one of them. And then here's the other one that we did. So you can see how good this looks with a really thin spot right there, and you get a couple of different watercolors. I think honestly it looks better when you have watercolor colors that don't necessarily resemble the design, so it's going to be a little bit different. I tried to match the designs a little bit more with the blues and reds that we have in here, but some of the other colors might look a lot better. So anyway, I hope this helps, and as you move forward, this is kind of the process for working with filters, adding some simple little watercolors in the background and adding some filters to make the overall design look better. So have fun with this one.